Oh, Jorge, so much drama, so many tears, so many screams, and, well, that was just me getting dressed for the finale. Oh, hey! Hi, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of Canada's Drag Race, the finale. And before I get started, I just want to send a heartfelt apology out to Kevin and Brandon Cantrell. They were recent Patreon supporters. It was a couple of... Oh my God, Brendan and Kevin, if it's a month ago, I am a bad girl. But I'm sure it was a couple of weeks, but, well, this is them here. Look how cute. Look how cute! My longest ignored. So just on behalf of them, I would just like to let everyone know that they are in the Patreon credit roll, just at the very end, new patrons, even though they're not new. They're new to the role. So again, my apologies. I'm very busy and famous. Things fall through the cracks so fast around here. It is not even funny. Which of course then brings me to my tipper dues. I am always so humbled, especially in this time that we're living in, because it's not easy for anybody. Everybody is suffering. And anytime there's a notification that I got a tip from somebody, I am so honored and thankful, and I couldn't be more tickled. So right out of the gate, I want to thank John Dwyer, you big old flirt, again, sweet man. I don't know what I'd do without you, John. I'm serious. One time, I think it was John, I had run out of lemons, and he had sent, was it John? Oh God, maybe it was Leon. Oh, it was one of my regular, my long-term supporters, but I didn't have garnish for my cocktail, and they sent me a $5 tip so Jorge could get lemons. You hear that, Jorge? You're embarrassing me. I also want to thank Thor Lindquist, my Viking Norseman. I don't know where you're from, Thor, but with a first name like Thor and a last name like Lindquist, you're either related to Rose Nyland or you are a Viking. And as a Scottish lad myself, apparently my background is very Scandinavian. There was a lot of raping and pillaging going on. No judgment. But we could be related, Thor. I'm just saying. I don't know. Also, I want to thank my favorite hippie, Preston Firestone. I don't know if he's a hippie, but I said with a name like that, it would be funny if he were a hippie and living his life without pants. And he informed me that he is wearing pants, but he didn't deny the hippie part. So there you go. Preston. And also, I'd like to thank Richard McCoy. He was another tipper due this week. And again, I couldn't do any of this without any of you. Whether you watch, whether you like, whether you subscribe, or whether you tip. All of those things are important. And I just want to remind you, you can do all the supporting of this channel through the links down below in the description box. Also, just to remind you, Denise Cherneau's fabulous Wilma illustrations are for sale on Redbubble, and all the proceeds from that go to support Rainbow Railroad. So I've set a little goal for myself. I'd like to reach $10,000. I'm not saying anytime soon or anything, but I would like to at least see if we can't raise enough money to save one soul from just a life none of us would wish on our worst enemies. So a lot of you have been buying, and I will have, I'm hoping to have a first tally, a first amount that we've collected. But for those of you who have been buying the prints, post them on Instagram or Twitter and tag me in them. At Wilma Fingerdoo, just so I can see how it all looks, and I can brag about it here on my channel. All right, that's it. It's finale time. Let's get to it. Jorge, drink me. What is that? It's not champagne, not special, no garnish. Do we run out? Do I have to tell people we're too poor for? No, you're just lazy. Oh, all right. Well, of course, this is my favorite, the Easy Margarita. It's just tequila and Fresca. Delish. All right, well, after a fabulous review of this entire season, the queens finally got down to saying goodbye to Jimbo. So close and yet so far away. And after the queens congratulated Scarlet on her first win, and then Priyanka had a ceremonial discarding of her craft project skirt, Rita Baga took a very interesting moment to let everyone know, or remind them all, that it was her lyrics from the Not Sorry About It challenge in episode 3, that her lyrics were for Team Lemon. They won't make it to the end. All I'm saying is, with power like that at her disposal, those other two queens better not piss Rita off. Seriously. And then the top 3 decided that between all of their varied wins, losses, and being safes, that they were all on even playing ground, and that they would be going into the final challenge with a clean slate. And then they explained to Rita what a clean slate meant. See? RuPaul's Drag Race, educating the children since 2009. Seriously. The next day, the queens were still crowing about making it to top 3 when Ru's video message interrupted Priyanka's thoughts about thick French Canadians. You know, I know that she said she quit hosting children's television to do RuPaul's Drag Race, but I'm wondering if she didn't quit it because she's becoming too much of a horn dog. I mean, all I can say is I just have these images of her fans from the Children's Network seeing her on Drag Race, and their poor parents who are being responsible and watching the show with them, sitting in the background going, oh, what's going on? Oh, the conversations. I mean, seriously, where's the Dr. Spock book on slut shaming? But before I could mull that over any longer, there was Brooklyn Heights with the season's final challenge. And the queens were so excited, they could almost pee. Even Rita, who I know didn't look like it. The queens had to write their own verse to RuPaul's You Wear It Well with recording artist Ralph, and then learn some choreography from Hollywood Jade for the live extravaganza. And so they wouldn't get bored during it all, they also had to do a live one-on-one interview with Tracy Melchor and JBC. What, they don't need an arc built? With one big sweeping arm gesture, the queens got down to work. Being an experienced singer, Rita was in the zone and was completely ignoring Priyanka and Bobo, which had them worried, and so it should. So when Rita got to the recording studio with Ralph, she was ready to belt it out. Something I wasn't ready for was Ralph's pants. I have to tell you, I'm a huge fan of the mom jeans. I lived through the 80s. I have no problem with mom jeans. I'm also a huge fan of the lowriders. But both of them together, that just looked odd. I wonder if she got them from the JBC collection. Needless to say, Rita did an excellent job, even with a few slight pronunciation issues. In fact, she did such a great job that Ralph had her doing 3-part harmonies without breaking a sweat. Of course, that could have been the Botox. Priyanka's recording session went well too. She got some great advice from Ralph and even flirted with John, the sexy producer. Wait, Priyanka flirted with somebody? I'm shocked. Of all the queens, Bobo had the hardest go of it. I'm so sorry. Now, I wouldn't call her tone deaf because she was actually hearing something. I just don't think Ralph thought it was music. Scarlet Bubble was the first to be interviewed by JBC and Tracy Melchor, and I just need to ask, I'm not being rude, I'm not trying to stir the pot up. I don't understand why JBC was there. Why was he there? He's not known for interviewing people. Tracy Melchor's whole career has been about interviewing people on TV. She's the senior correspondent for E-Talk, and I think she could have done that interview completely by herself. Now, I know on RuPaul's Drag Race, Ru and Michelle do the interviews, but they have a history of working together. I'll bet you JBC's never heard of Tracy Melchor in his life before this show. And, you know, maybe a lot of people maybe haven't. But they just seemed unnecessary together. Tracy could have interviewed these people alone and done a filmed interview. So it would have been in keeping with a podcast theme, but unique to Canada's Drag Race. I mean, they did the E-Talk as a She-Talk red carpet for Snatch Game. They could have done a She-Talk interview. I don't know. I mean, if they really wanted to justify the two of them being there, the best they could have done, in my mind, was have them do a podcast, call it Squirrel Friends, and be done with it. Seriously. As for these interviews, they were okay. There wasn't really anything that was revealed to them that we haven't heard already one way or another in the course of the season. I mean, Rita expressed how proud she was to be French, Canadian, and from Montreal. And Priyanka shared with us what it was like to be the Hannah Montana of drag because, well, her dad doesn't know she's a drag queen or gay, which makes this whole idea of her having a new branding of just be gay a little awkward. Of course, you could just send him a t-shirt. And then it was time for the choreography with Hollywood Jade and Brooklyn Heights, who more or less just commented from the peanut gallery. When they said that this was going to be complicated choreo, they were not kidding. Even Scarlet Bubble, who is a dancer, tried to avoid Brooklyn's steely gaze by hiding behind Rita Baga. And yes, Steely Gaze was my drag queen name in high school. Rita certainly had a few issues with the choreography, but nobody had a harder time than poor Priyanka. And I'm not talking about the choreography, I'm talking about her face. Every thought Priyanka has lives on that mug of hers. And one of the key points to being a graceful dancer is not letting the audience know you're about to poop your panties. Have we learned nothing from Martha Graham? And then, just like that, it was Coronation Day. So as the queens got ready, they reflected on the season past and remembered how much they all hated Kind's purple glow up and how much fun Rita had teabagging Kiara and, well, how embarrassed Cretan was with her snatch game. All in all, it was a full season. And then it was time for the runway with, well, everybody. But this week's host was none other than our squirrel friend, Tracy Melchor. Up first, You Wear It Well. Now, I just want to say, I love this performance. But when those three queens first turned around, I gasped. They took my breath away. I loved Rita's look. Her wig was spectacular. I loved Priyanka in that boy shorts and bra combo. I thought she looked great. And her lyrics were fantastic. Good for you, Priyanka. Seriously. Scarlet Bubble gave a great performance. She was so full of energy. I noticed a few weak moments during her lip sync, but she was all over that stage, literally. As for the performance as a whole, it kind of ran out of steam by the end for me. I felt like everyone, including the dancers, had kind of blown their wad off the top and were now just going through the motions to get to the end. But I didn't hate it. And then it was time for the final runway. Category is Coronation Eleganza, their very best drag. Rita was first round the corner, and at first I wasn't sure what to think. I'm not a huge fan of unnatural skin tones, like, unless there's a reason. Like, the fact that she was green kind of threw me a bit, but it was alien goddess realness, and she had done an excellent job. Getting some blush tones and that into a green tone, I thought Rita did an excellent job. I loved the wig, and that gown was exquisite. It fit her, well, like a gown. A very expensive gown. Scarlet Bubble was next, and I absolutely hated this dress. It looked like she borrowed it last minute because it didn't fit her. The nude on the sleeves was baggy. The interfacing in her constructed hem was visible. And when she walked back up the runway, the panels of her coat looked like they were sewn on different angles. It just didn't look good. I thought that her pageant perfection look from episode 7 was way better drag than this look. Just saying. But then it didn't matter what anybody else wore because Priyanka's eleganza erased it all from my mind. This was breathtaking. It looked expensive. It fit her beautifully. The colors were gorgeous. I can see why Priyanka left this for last. Seriously. Do you know what I liked about Priyanka's runway the most? Her explaining why she always gets audiences to say her name. Being born with a culturally bereft name like Mark, I can see why she wants to let people know that as a person of color, anybody can achieve anything. as long as they put their mind to it. Here's to Priyanka. It's inspiring, I'm just saying. And then it was time for the judges' critiques. Everybody seemed to love Rita's performance, but Tracy Melchior was particularly impressed with how different her runway look was from the You Wear It Well number. As for Scarlet, everybody seemed to be impressed with her energy, but they were even more impressed with how beautiful her runway look was. Well, I have been wrong before. And then the Priyanka Love Fest began. They didn't seem to hate anything about her. In fact, they didn't seem to have a negative thing to say about anybody. So Canadian. Then the queens were asked why they should be Canada's next drag superstar. Rita Baga stuck to the facts. She'd won the most challenges, and her 12 years in drag had proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt to her, that she was the obvious choice. Also, did she mention she's French? Bobo shared how her work with kings, queens, and non-binary performers had made her an inclusive representation of not only her community, but of her art form. And quite frankly, I thought that answer set her apart from the pack. Priyanka made fun of her ups and downs during season 1, but she was serious about her desire to entertain people and help them forget their problems, even if it is just for a minute. Plus, Priyanka thought she should be Canada's next drag superstar because she's already a superstar. I must have missed that email. And then it was time for the queens to untuck, but they weren't alone. The eliminated queens were there waiting for them, and they looked PO'd. Well, just for that first minute, anyway. For the most part, this reunion went about as well as you'd expect. There was laughter, there was shade, and then out of the blue, Priyanka asked Kind if she had been acting like a bitch for TV, or if that's just how she rolls. Well, Kind assured everyone that she had no idea she was being a bitch, so the answer to Priyanka's question is, that's just how she rolls. I have to admit, though, I kind of forgot that Kind was even on this season. I was so disappointed with how she came off that I think I just blocked it from my mind. Of course, I also drink. Priyanka also took a minute to say how disappointed she was that Juicebox got eliminated first because of what a great queen she is. Here's to you, Priyanka. Well said. And here's to you, Juicebox. Seriously. But the Love Fest couldn't last forever because they had a queen to crown, but not before the eliminated queens took one more walk down the runway. Juicebox went first, and she looked stunning. This was a gorgeous dress. I'm serious. Kind looked like she was gunning for Jujubee's job at the mall, or trying to teach Sunday school. All I have to say about Anastasia Anakwe is, where was this dress during the competition? God, that's beautiful. If she'd had worn that down the runway, I'm sure she would have at least lasted one more week. Maybe two. Tainomi looked gorgeous from the neck up, but that dress, it just hid her body shape. I don't understand why unless she's pregnant. I have to say I loved Kiara's look, but she is so slim that her corset looked like it was trying to eat her up too. But if you're going to be eaten alive, that's the way to go. Seriously. Boa looked gorgeous, but I think we need to have a Kickstarter for her so she can get a new breastplate. Those boobs are they're too high. She needs a longer one. It looks like her clavicles are on steroids. Ilona was gorgeous in her representational glam. Lemon was delicious in her fluffy yellow extravaganza. And Jimbo, true to herself, was the only queen on the runway to have a reveal. And I'm so glad she did, because that was a hell of a lot of fabric she had on. I almost didn't recognize her. And then it was time for the final three to return to the stage, where it was announced that they would have to do one final lip sync for the crown, and they were gagged. But I don't know why. They've always done a final lip sync before the crown. Well, at least they did before it was live. Well, I was excited. This was going to be our first time seeing Bobo lip sync. Well, I mean, outside of a choreographed number. And I have to say, I was very relieved to see that both Rita and Priyanka could move in their dresses. And they did. Well, not at first. Love Inc. Superstar is a slow build, but once it dropped the beat, so did the queens. And in Bobo's case, she dropped her gown, literally. And I, for one, am super glad she did, because that cover-up wasn't doing her any favors. Seriously. Not to be outdone, Rita dropped her skirt too to reveal leggings. But I have to say, for the most part, I was underwhelmed with her lip sync. Priyanka was the only queen who kept it classy. She didn't take anything off. She wasn't jumping all over the stage. There were no splits, just pure and simple lip syncing, which couldn't have been easy with Scarlet zipping around the stage the way she did. In fact, when Scarlet Bubble slid across that stage on her knees, almost on her back, I was stunned. In fact, I thought, based on that she'd won. Well, at least the lip sync. So, imagine my surprise when it was announced that the winner of Canada's Drag Race and our first drag superstar was Priyanka. I was stunned. Not that I was disappointed. I just was expecting it to be between Scarlet and Rita, mostly because of Priyanka's up and down season. I mean, there were a couple of times there where even she thought she was going home. Plus, there was so much talk about Rita Baga being the production's pick to win that I kind of thought it was a fait accompli. But I couldn't be happier for Priyanka. I think she's going to make an excellent ambassador to drag in Canada. You know, once she tells her dad. But I'll tell you one thing. Telling her dad's going to be a hell of a lot easier with a check for $100,000 in her back pocket. Here's to you, Priyanka. Seriously. So, there you go. Our first season of Canada's Drag Race is finally done. What did you think? I have to say, I loved it. I mean, there were a lot of surprises, things I wasn't expecting. Like, I certainly did not expect people to dislike JBC as much as they did. I also didn't expect to like Lemon as much as I did, or be as disappointed when she went home. And Jimbo, I was sure was going to be in the top 3. That was another surprise. But for all its ups and downs, I have to say, it's those surprises and those twists, whether we like them or not, that makes TV great. I always feel when we get upset, the more we get upset at something, it's a reflection on how invested we were in what we were watching. So I would just like to say to all the fans out there, I understand when you get disappointed that somebody that you wanted to win doesn't. That's life. Lots of things don't go the way we planned. Also, just because something didn't go right here doesn't mean something isn't going to go right down the road. So I just would like to say, if you are disappointed that your pick didn't win, don't ruin the moment for somebody else by dumping on them, by getting on the interwebs and throwing shade, because, well, that doesn't help anybody either. Seriously, if you won something and you got 100 million hate mails from people you'd never met in your life, I think that would affect you too. So I would just like to say, I think if you enjoyed this season, regardless of who won, that should be what you take away from this experience. I, for one, was very impressed. I thought everyone did very well. We met some great queens that we wouldn't have been aware of otherwise. And I would also like to say, as we start to slowly open some of our bars and entertainment facilities, I would just like to say, if you can support these queens, if you can't go out to a club or you don't want to, which I completely understand, most of these queens are doing cameo videos. You pay $30 or something, they'll send you a personalized video message, or you can tip some of them on PayPal. I think some of them do have accounts. If you really did have a queen you liked and they didn't win like you would have liked them to have this season, search them out. They're all reachable on Instagram, Twitter, somewhere, and find out if they have a way for you to tip them. Send them a tip. Let them know you care. That's all I have to say. Well, I just have to say this as well. I'm clearly lying. That's it for Drag Race right now. That's more or less it, except that in 2 weeks, Holland is doing their version of Drag Race, and I couldn't be more excited. So I would like to say I will be reviewing that. So I won't maybe see you before that, maybe. But in the meantime, I have a bunch of videos that I've been trying to edit, and it's just, I need an assistant. If I could make more money, then I could pay somebody to help me, because Jorge isn't helping anybody. I'm just saying. So, even though we've got a couple of weeks until Drag Race Holland starts, I will see you shortly. And even if I don't, miss me! Seriously, Jorge. There's a lot to contend with. Yummy!